Welcome to this lesson of Python for Economists. We are going to be seeing a lot of things. Some of the things will be a recap of what we've already covered, and some of it will be a lot of new stuff. So we just have lots of things to cover. I'll have a lot of copy and pasting. So we just want to recap certain concepts. For example, what's a variable? Python uses lots of variables. For example, integers. You have whenever you have a decimal, you are dealing with float, and whenever you have something like this, you are dealing with a string, and we also use booleans. Then, for example, we can choose to define some variables and then use the variables for our computation. For example, we can go with x equals to 10, y is 2. You can use any letters you want there. And now let's just run some operations on that. So I want to use the print statement to be able to output some analysis. For example, here we are saying x plus y. We know x plus y has to be 12. Now, this is just, as you remember, this is just a comment. You can put a comment on top. You can put it anywhere. So we know the output should be 12. Here is x to the power y. So you are raising x. X is 10 to the power 2. So you expect x squared to be 100. Here you are checking. This is a Boolean check. You want to check if x is less than y. And given that x is 10, you want to check if 10 is less than 2. So it should give you false. And this is the negation. So you want to check if x is different from y. X being different from y should be true. So if we run that, I'll use Shift Enter. And we can see what our output is going to look like. That's it. We have 12, blah, 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 and so on. So let's recap certain other things. So now we want to do a recap on control flow. So we are defining x as 10. Then we are going to use some if statement and some else if. And we'll do it the Python style. So here, for example, we say if x is greater than 10. Of course, we know x is 10, so x is not greater than 10. So we are saying if x is greater than 10, print x is greater than 10. If x is less than 10, this is what it should print. Else, okay, so there's no more statement. If this fails, this is what it should do. Print x is equal to 10. And we know we know this condition will not hold, this will not hold, so this we expect to print. So I'll use Shift Enter, and we expect to have x is equal to 10. So right now I'm going to be using a for loop, and for that we want to first of all ask it to generate a range of 5. So a range of 5 means we are going to start from 0. So we are saying for I in range, print I. So it's going to go in and print every element that is found in that. So I'll do Shift Enter, and we expect to go from 0 to 4. So if you change this to maybe, let's say 4, you expect to go from 0 to, so you should expect to count the first 4 statements beginning at 0. So if I do Shift Enter, that's what we end up having. Now let's throw in a while loop and see what's happened. So here we go with a while loop. So we first of all define the initial condition. We are saying I is 0. And now we say while I is less than 5, it should print I. So it will check and it will find out I is less than 5. It's going to print I. Then here we have a statement. So we've already seen this. We've already seen that this statement is identical to saying I equals I plus 1. Okay, it's basically the same thing. But you don't want to, the best form is just to use plus equal. So every time it prints I, it's going to update I. I will go from 0 to 1. Then it's going to print I as 1. It will go from 1 to 2. Then it will print it until when it gets to 5, it's going to stop. because it says while I is less than 5. When it keeps adding it, when it gets to 5, it will not print because it's no more. This condition is no more true. So let's go for it. Shift, enter. So you can see it goes from 0 to 4. It will not continue because when it goes to 5, it means this condition no more holds. Now let's try to see how to do things in a very secure way. We are going to use the try except statement. So generally this is how you go about doing things. So the try except is a very secure way of writing your code. So for example, you don't want to run such a code. It says 10 divided by 0. It will give you an error. Now, if you don't want to have an error, you put it in a try except. So try simply means attempt this. If there is no problem, give me the output. However, if there is a problem with this, we don't want to be having errors popping out of a computer program. We want it to give us something that makes sense. So if it is, so it should throw an exception. The exception is simply 0 division error, and this is what it should print. Cannot divide by 0. So you can write whatever you want here as long as it's something you can understand. So if we run this statement, so let me just take this. I'm going to create, and I'll just say plus code, and I'll run it here, and you'll see it should normally give us an error. Shift enter. Now you can see it's telling us that there's a 0 division error. So that's why we want to put it in a try catch, as some call it, or try except statement, where if there's a 0 division error, it should give us something that makes sense. Okay, let me get rid of that. And let me get rid of this. Now, if we run this, shift enter, it simply tells us cannot divide by 0. So we like this output much more than the previous one. So that's how you go about it. Now, let's rapidly take a look at a list. Let's remind ourselves what a list is all about, and we are dealing with economics. So I'm going to be using GDP in this context, and here a list is mutable. What does it mean, mutable? It means you can go and change the values which are here. It's mutable. It's an ordered sequence of items. So we want to run a list of GDP for country X. It can be any country. Now know that this data is fictional data over 5 years. So year 1, 2 to year 5. So if you run that, you've just created a list. Now on the other hand, a tuple, we are going to create a tuple. A tuple is similar to a list, but it is immutable. So once you have things here, you cannot change them. They are there forever. Okay. So GDP growth, we are dealing with economic indicators. We are looking at GDP growth. That's what we have. Now you can see that here we have the square brackets, and here we just have the simple brackets. So we want to first of all place the different data, the different tools we have to keep data, and then we'll manipulate it. So the next one after your tuple, now just know a tuple is not mutable. You cannot change when you've put it. Now we want to take a look at a dictionary. A dictionary is generally what we call ordered pair. So you have key pair. So here you have USA, here you have the GDP, China GDP, Japan GDP, and so on. So you have pairs. So if you are looking for this, you come here. You know this is the GDP. Okay, here it's not the case. You just have the GDP for one country, but here you can have the GDP for different countries. And actually you can have USA and create something like this and put it in here so that you have a whole list going with what you have there. Now let's just rapidly see how we can access the values of these different. But first of all, before we try to access the values, we've created a list, a tuple, we have a dictionary. Let's first of all run this so that the values are created. I'll do shift, enter, and it has created it successfully. So we have GDP values as list, economic indicators as your tuple, and you have GDP by country as your dictionary. So right now I want to be able to access it. So if I want to access the elements of a list, now you should know that it always starts by 0. So it's 0 index. So this, if I want to come and grab this, I need to use print, create a square bracket, and then put 0 to get this. If I want this, it should be 1. And if I want this, it should be -1 to grab the last value. Or I know it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I know it's 4. Same thing here, okay? So here if I want this one, I'll use 1 to go and grab it. You see, we are always using the square things. Here it's telling us we have a mistake. Let me see. We have economic indicators. Here it says economic sectors. So we need indicators. Good. So now if we are coming to the hold on. Yeah, so we are so what does this do? Okay, this is just reminding me I forgot something because I already have economic indicators here. So I should put a set here. I just forgot to add a set. So we have 4 of them. We have lists, tuples, dictionaries, and we have sets. Now a set is simply an unordered collection of unique elements. So you can have the same values, it's unique. For example, we are looking at economic sectors. We have agriculture, manufacturing, service, blah, blah, blah. They are unique sectors, and you can put them in this type of parentheses. And there you go with your economic sector. So I'll run this again so that it creates the 4 different types. So I use Shift Enter. It's been created, and now I can access them. So here we have economic sector. I should change this back into sectors. So we have the GDP, we have the economic indicators to grab it from the list and from the tuple. And now I have the set. You can see if we want to grab something from here, here I'm just using an in. I'm saying agriculture in economic sector. So if agriculture is found inside of economic sector, it should give me true. Okay. On the other hand, GDP, and I precise which key, it should give me the value, key value. So if I put China, I should have 14.3. If I put USA, 21.4. So let's run this and see what happens. Shift Enter. And here we go, 1.5 if we are at 0. Why? Because this is 0. Now, if you change this to maybe, let's say 2, and I do Shift Enter, we should have 2.1. So it's at position 0, 1, 2. That's why we have 2.1. And the other one, we had 1. So we count 0, 1. We should have 7.8. 7.8, and if you look at the content, you can see clearly there's agriculture in it. Okay, so if we do something like this, there is no agriculture without E in this, so we should have false. Shift Enter. Hold on, I messed up. Okay, Shift Enter. Now we have false, and we can change this from rather than having USA, we'll put China. Shift Enter, and for China we can see it's 14.3. So that's it. Just make sure you understand the 4 different types. It's really interesting, and we will use it as we move on. Now we've seen how to access it. So if you have data that is in one of these 4 different types, data structures, that's the real word, in any of these 4 data structures, we've seen how to access it. Now what if, can we modify it? Of course, we know the tuples, you cannot modify things in it, but let's see how to modify the other ones. So here, for example, you have your list at position 0. We want to do a modification. So take a look again at position 0, we have 1.5. So if we say position 0, we want it to be 1.6, it's going to change from 1.5 to 1.6. USA, we want to change the content. We no more want it to be 21.4, we want it to be 22. It will change it, then we can print it and see what comes out. Shift, enter, and we can see it has effectively changed the content, and we now have that. So even if we come here and run this, it's going to run on the basis of the changes we have created. So that's how you can go about modifying some of those things. Now, what if we want to just add items to it? So if we want to add, you can use append, you can use add to be able to add. Now, here we go, GDP values. If I put append 2.6, so if we come here, we have the GDP values. We will have, so here we have 5. We will have a seed 1, which is now 2.6. We'll have a new value 2.6 because it has added it to it. On the other hand, if we are looking at economic sectors, if we add finance, it's going to come here and it's going to add a seed sector. Because we have 5, it will add a seed 1 and we will have finance. We could use append, we could use add. And then we can also add francs. So if you take a look to this key value pairs, you don't have francs. So we can add something. We are going to be using all of this when we start analyzing data, and we can run it to see how it looks like. Okay, so we are just printing only this one to see that francs has been added to it, but you could as well print all the other ones. So example, you could, so let's just run this, shift enter. We see that we have francs, it has been added. If we want, we could rerun this and just check if we now have francs in it. So if you do francs here, you will see what happens and so on. So just try to access it to see if the changes have occurred. Now, what if we want to remove things? That's what we want to look at right now. How do we remove items from the different data structures? Now, remember, when we are doing all those manipulations, we let go of the tuple because it's something we cannot change. So right now, we want to print the last value of GDP values. This is a list, and we also want to print USA. Then we want to delete it. So if we print it, we know what's there. Then we want to delete it by using del. You delete it. And here we want to remove from economic sectors, we want to remove mining, and not just remove mining, then we want to go to the dictionary and delete francs. Remember, we added francs. We want to delete it, and then we will print it and see. So we will print this and print that to see if that has happened. So I'll do shift enter, and here it tells us there's a mistake. Now, why is there a mistake? There's a mistake here where you have francs because you've already deleted francs. There's no more francs existing in it. So let me just do this. Put a hashtag, not at it, but I'll do it in front and I'll run that. Economic sectors, okay, we've already removed mining the first time we ran it. So let me just run it again from here so that it initializes things. Shift enter. Now if I run it here, I should not have the same mistakes I'm having. It's because mining, when we ran it the first time, though it gave us a mistake at the level of francs, it had already taken off mining, and it doesn't understand why you want to take off something that is not even there. So shift enter, and so same thing here, francs was already taken off. It doesn't understand why you want to take off francs again. So I'll run it here, I'll reinitialize things here, and I'll come here and also run adding these items. I'll run them, then when I come here, I should have all my items. Shift enter, and there we go. Now if we try to print the values we have here, then we should not see the other things. So an interesting question you may have is, now how do you see what is in the economic sector and in GDP by country? Now remember, we've seen the for loop when we were playing with things here. For loop in range. So let's use the for loop to be able to read what's there. So we'll say for I in. So we'll start with the economic sectors. Economic sectors. And we'll say print I, shift enter, and there you go. So it gives you the different sectors, and you can see that mining is no more present. So how do we take a look at the GDP by country? We'll do exactly the same thing for I in GDP by country. Now here there's a little catch. You just have to be careful, because you want to be, if you simply do print I, I'll just do print I, and you'll see it doesn't give us exactly what we want. It only gives us the key, but we want the key value pair. So here we are going to do F, throw in this, then this enables us to go capture what we want. So in your parentheses, you'll put an I, and here we want it to go and capture the different values. So here we can say GDP for blah 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 country is, so we will put it in. So we can say GDP by country, and we will put I. So what it will do is it will take the I that we have, that is given, and it will look for the GDP by country for that exact I. So let's run it and see. So we have GDP for USA is blah blah blah. So when you put it inside of this, it goes and picks what's there. Okay, so that's just the fun of it. So in the next video, we are going to introduce Panda. Panda is the main tool we use for manipulating data, and we will introduce Panda, and we will move on to take a look at how do we clean data. Now when you are thinking of being a data analyst, one of the most important things you have to master is how to clean your data. So we are going to be creating some synthetic data. We'll use Panda to clean it, and then we'll look at different visualizations. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Stay tuned.